Hi, I'm Dan Cortopassi. Welcome to Dan's Backshop. For the last 3 weeks, as I'm taping this, Nicole and I have had some house guests. Some very dear friends have been staying with us. And it was a lot of fun, and we went to a lot of places and did a lot of things. And we had a great time. Nicole had a great time. She was kind of sad to see him go. And so am I. At the same time, I'm kind of looking forward to, once again, getting back to some of my projects that have been on the workbench and getting back to work on the train room. So, those things have kind of been a little bit on pause for the last few weeks, but we'll be getting back to it. Anyway, I have a few things to talk about this month, so let's get into it. From time to time, I get asked about coupler trip pins and why I haven't cut them off of my models. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, they don't bother me that much, and two, 2,000 couplers. Let's talk about those things. I know magnetic uncoupling has kind of fallen out of fashion in recent years, partially because in order to use it, you have to make the train move in ways that isn't really prototypical. The uncoupling procedure is different than it would be for real trains, and some people don't like that. Sometimes it's also just easier to use a little skewer or an uncoupling tool and just, uncouple the cars where you want to leave them, like, basically the same thing you do in the prototype, except instead of pulling the pin with the uncoupling lever, you're just, using some other tool to uncouple the cars. But some people don't use it, and I don't know that I'll use it, honestly. Probably not, but I'm not 100% convinced that I'll never use it. So, I prefer to leave them on. And, having them there is one of those concessions to operation that I'm willing to put up with. There are certain things that I'm willing to tolerate for the sake of having reliable running. I'm planning to run 25 plus car trains on my Donner layout, and there's going to be grades and helices and, different things. And, I think in all of the decades that I've been in HO scale, I've broken one Katie. I can't even tell you how many times I've had plastic couplers stretch out of shape or let go or just fail completely. Or, that's why I'm so fussy about coupler height and stuff. Because when I'm running trains, I don't want them to come uncoupled when I don't want them to. So, I use Katies, and Katies come with the trip pins, and I just leave them on. So basically, they don't bother me, and that's one reason. The other reason is 2,000 couplers. So I recently did an inventory, as some of you know if you've been watching. And if you add the locomotives together, which is a little over 250 at current time, and the freight cars is about 775, I think, freight and passenger cars together. That's over 1,000 individual models, and every model's got two couplers pretty much. So that's, 2,000 couplers. I don't want to cut the trip pins off of 2,000 couplers. That's just not a way I want to spend my time. The other thing too, even worse, is that if I ever change my mind after doing that, you can't put the pins back on, because unlike the N-scale microtrains couplers where the pin is a separate piece that you could potentially replace. On the HO scale couplers, they're kind of, pressed in there in a way that they're not removable. So if you want to replace the pin, you basically have to replace the entire coupler. I did the math. The last time I bought couplers, I think it was almost $60 for 25 pair, which is 50 couplers. I think I worked out the math, and I don't know. In any case, it would cost a lot of money to replace 2,000 couplers. Sorry, I'm not good at math. I thought I'd worked it out, but I'm thinking about it in my head, and I'm not sure I did it right. But in any case, it's a lot of money. I figured it was at least probably $1,500 to $2,000 worth of couplers. Again, I don't want to spend that, to replace couplers. Plus, I've got a couple of models where the couplers are so built into the coupler boxes that I used. My Burlington Northern caboose that I kit bashed a few years ago comes to mind. I used some Details West, coupler boxes that aren't easily openable because of the way I built the car. So even replacing the couplers on that thing would be a real challenge without destroying it in the process. So, it's just something I don't want to do. Other people want to cut their trip pins. That's great. Go for it. But I'm going to keep mine. Compromises come in a lot of forms. I was thinking in terms of prototype accuracy. Modelers, we usually have to make some compromises. For example, if I model a diesel, it's pretty doable to, do research and, make sure that I have all the right detail parts and I get every little part in the right place and make it as accurate as I can. That's something you can do with an individual model. But when it comes to a layout, it becomes more and more difficult to achieve that. And I was thinking of my Donner plan. The SP Roseville sub is, on the order of like 100 miles long or so, give or take. My layout is nowhere near that. It's maybe 4 or 5 miles of actual mainline running. So, I'm not going to have as many signal blocks, for example, as the real thing. They're going to have to be closer together, and there are not going to be as many of them. So, my version of the whatever, signal control system I come up with when it gets to that point is going to have to be different than the real thing, at least, to a large degree. I may need to put in crossovers here and there where there weren't any crossovers on the real plan. Space constraints, like, even though I'm planning to model Colfax, I'm not modeling the Y there because there isn't room for it. So, there's always things like that. And I think, rather than stress about that, I think it's important to kind of consider the model railroad as a holistic entity unto itself. I think it's important that the model railroad function and is fun to operate. I think that's even more important than having it be, foot for foot accurate. You could model like, if you had enough room for a couple miles of mainline, you could model maybe one siding and, maybe a spur or two in some prototype location, but that might not be the most interesting layout, So, I think, most of us want to put in more stuff to do than that. And I'm no exception to that. So I think it's important to kind of try to design a track plan with the prototype in mind, but one that also functions as a model railroad and functions well so that we have fun with it, which is after all the point. So one thing new on the Workbench is this. It's an ESU ECOS command station. And I'm planning to use this as sort of the brains of my Donner layout. And I'll be doing a kind of review of this eventually. Probably, I need to learn more about it first because it's kind of like, it's got like 10,000 features and I have barely scratched the surface, but it does actually run the trains pretty well. I've been playing with it here on the Workbench and it's pretty cool so far. I really like it. I decided to go this route instead of sticking with Digitrax, which I had before. And I'll talk about that more when I get to the review. But anyway, I just thought I'd show this, and so you can look forward to a review of this coming at some point, probably in the near future. I'm also hoping to soon get back to the DCC installs for these two Athearn GP40P-2s. Probably would be one more installment, I'm imagining, where I take care of the rest of the lights and then put them back together. So that'll be something I'll be working on pretty soon. I also wanted to mention briefly that I've already done a review of the Class 1 ModelWorks Santa Fe CE3 Class Way car. This review is already out for channel members, but for everybody else, it'll be out on September 7th. I'm also going to be doing a review of the new Rapido Southern Pacific dome cars. I have a couple of those that I already paid for, but I don't actually have them yet, so I'm showing pictures from a book. But that'll be coming up pretty soon, hopefully. That'll do it for this time. If you like this video, then please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned and thanks for watching.